Mac Kilduff sits in a coffee shop in Beattyville, Kentucky. He is the local newspaper editor. But 20 years and 10 jobs ago, Mac Kilduff was the assistant White House press secretary, assigned to Dallas, rode in the third car of the motorcade. After the shots at Parkland Hospital, it was Kilduff's job to face reporters, to make it official.
John F. Kennedy died at approximately 1 o'clock Central Standard Time today here in Dallas.
The film record of Kilduff's announcement is shaky and scratchy. It was almost lost. The memory of the man who spoke the words, however, is secure.
I was able to rally for the first part of it, but then as the questioning went on, it would be noted that I did choke up considerably.
Mrs. Kennedy will return to Washington. Yes.
With her now?
We're just friends who are on the trip. Anything else swearing in? Get into individuals.
I think I got a little bit angry when someone asked me, what was Mrs. Kennedy's reaction? And I just kind of looked at them, you know, as much as to say, well, she's thrilled with the whole thing. It was a foolish question.
Kilduff went to the White House in the spring of '62 by way of the State Department. He was to work primarily with the foreign press, a plan, he remembers, that lasted about 20 minutes. He laughs in recalling that Kennedy could never get his name right.
He said, I know it's Kilduff, he says, but it's Mac Kilduff, he said, and that's just too much. He says, all I can come up with is McDuff, and McDuff is going to be. And it was always McDuff.
On November 22nd, 1963, Kilduff's boss, Pierre Salinger, was en route to Japan, and so all press questions came to Kilduff. Some he could not answer.
I'm sorry, for reasons of security, I cannot discuss the whereabouts or travel plans of the Vice President.
Johnson was the consummate historian, and he had recalled the conspiracy which had developed after Lincoln was shot, that there had been plans to kill Andrew Johnson, the Vice President, Secretary of State Seward, and Secretary of War Stanton. So his first thought was, no, wait until I get back to Air Force One before making the announcement.
Kilduff came to eastern Kentucky to live in the house where his second wife was born. 2 years ago, he became editor of the Beattyville Enterprise, circulation 3,000. His publisher is covering for him this week. Kilduff's in Washington, attended the commemorative mass this morning, meets tonight with the reporters who were with him that day in Dallas. Ned McGrath, Action 11 News.
I was at a neighbor's house. She was fixing my hair.
How did you feel?
I cried and I went home. I was so sad. I just couldn't believe anything like that could happen here in the United States.
It's a 10-cent store having lunch. Come back, the secretary was all tears, crying. I didn't believe her.
I remember very well. I was in an office on East 65th Street in New York. And the first thought was, it's not possible, you know, how you reject things. And yet all of a sudden it was true. And that bright and classy fellow was gone from us.
I was having my picture taken. I was a sophomore in high school. It was, I'm not sure what club it was. I think it was a pep club.
How did you hear about it?
They announced it over the intercom.
How did you feel?
Terrible. Awful.
I was in Cleveland. I was doing my internship at the Cleveland Clinic, and I was doing my psychiatric round, and I was going through the lobby when it came on the television, and all the patients immediately identified as I did with the news.
In ninth grade, it was, we weren't so emotional as it was just unbelievable. It was just a feeling that we didn't know what was going to happen next.
I was I was a senior at U of L, and I was watching a fraternity intramural football game, which went on from 12 to 1. And just as we were leaving the field, somebody came up and said, did you hear that the president had been shot? And like everybody else, just total disbelief.
I left work and went home. And we sat and watched television the rest of the day and all the next day and the next day. It was one of the saddest experiences I ever had.
As I recall, I was practicing law, and I heard about it in the Kentucky Home Life building. And I guess my first reaction was one, like everyone else, of shock.
It's been the worst thing I've had to witness in my lifetime.
And then the news director said, well, let's get reaction. So we headed downtown. And the first thing that struck me was Louisville was just deathly quiet. I've never seen the city that quiet. And you would see people weeping openly, and they weren't ashamed of it.
I cried for weeks and weeks and weeks, and I cried again this morning when I saw it on television because it brought it all back very clearly, just as if it happened yesterday.